Good morning, GM, everyone. Welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Thursday, November 21st. Folks, it is a cold day here in Chicago. It's snowing. In fact, there is snow on the ground outside. My God, that happened fast. But the good news, it's stay inside season. Much easier to stay inside when it's 20 degrees. Folks, the coins are pumping. Memes are hot. Nvidia has record earnings. China's legalizing crypto. We might be getting Solana ETFs. There is a lot happening. We are feeling good, and we're going to break it all down on today's show. Farouk is in Vegas. Won't be here this morning, but I've got my co-hosts, Mando and Logan, in the house. Mando, Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How could we not be feeling good? Looking at some of the price action, all-time highs, memes pumping. It's a good morning. Logie, Jim, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm cold as well. We're expecting snow here in Pennsylvania. Not looking forward to that, but feeling good. Some of our bags moving upwards, making us feel a little bit warmer.
It's nice. My kids don't want to go outside. They're happy to play inside. It's much easier for me to play inside as well. So I'm actually a fan of it here. Probably good for all of our bags. I think several other people are feeling the same way. Folks, what are we talking about on today's show? So we've got Bitcoin hitting $98,000 in a new all-time high. ETH up 7% after some Kobe bull posts and rebounding quite a bit. Crypto now potentially legal in China. Some breaking news around Solana ETFs. We'll get into that. Trump considering a crypto position for his cabinet. Moonshot recording his highest revenue days back to back. CHILLGUY seeing $700 million in on-chain volume amidst a lot of FUD from the artist. A broad recovery in the AI memes. Reccoin coming tomorrow. Got to chat about that. And then in a tease, if we have time, Xcopy has a drop today as well. There's a lot to get into. Before we dive in, shout out to our partner Galaxis. With seamless built-in monetization tools, Galaxis enables the development of sustainable long-term communities, fulfilling Bitcoin's vision of decentralized freedom and independence from centralized control. Love working with Galaxis. Excited to see them down at Art Basel here in a few weeks. All right, folks, that's our intro. With that, Mando, let's get right into it.
Do we doing the intro or no? Oh. No. Oh,
we'll get there. We'll get there. It's fine.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
Yeah, GM everyone. So it was a bit of a strange day because yesterday Bitcoin kind of went higher, but everything else kind of went lower, and it was just interesting to see. Bitcoin dominance kind of went up to about 62%. Since then, kind of this morning, it's actually been it's been a bit more chilled. We've actually had Bitcoin go down a little bit, and pretty much everything else go up. So interesting market right now, I would say. We have ETH was the main thing that broke out in the last few hours, let's say, which was which is a decent move. It moved up around 8 or 9%, I think, and that's the first time we've seen ETH move. It just hit a 4-year low versus Bitcoin, which is quite aggressive. I think Bitcoin is heading towards 100K. It feels like that is preordained at this stage, but it does feel as though at least it's not going to destroy the rest of the market on its way. Last night there was a big move lower in a bunch of different things, including well, not just memes, but pretty much everything. Part of that was to do with the liquidity from into CHILLGUY, I think, but still a very decent move kind of across the board, which I don't think people were necessarily ready for, given Bitcoin was going to an all-time high. But yeah, if you haven't realized, Bitcoin's the daddy, as always, this cycle. In terms of like specific crypto stuff, there was we did have Nvidia results yesterday, which pointed to a bullishness in AI agents. So you saw that space kind of rebound pretty aggressively overnight. Let's say that's kind of memes as well, but that was like one of the more macro things. Although Nvidia stock initially was down pre-market. It's now up. So that's a decent move. And stocks are like probably they're going to head back towards all-time highs. There was a slight escalation, more than just a slight one. Russia fired the first intercontinental ballistic missile ever in a warfare last night, hit an area of Ukraine. Obviously, we'd seen an escalation in that region over the last few days. Stocks didn't love that at first. Gold did kind of like bounce, went to near its all-time high again, but seemingly has been kind of downplayed since then. I don't really know, but yeah, we're at that stage. I don't really know. We had a Solana ETF, like you said, as we went live. It looks like Bitwise are throwing their hat into the pile for ETFs there, which is a better, more well-known name than some of the other people that have been looking to issue ETFs on SOL recently. And the biggest move was like Bitcoin Cash. It wasn't really like any of the other. It was just like Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin related movers. You did say one thing, which is about Shanghai. Like it looks like a court in Shanghai allowed Bitcoin as legal property, which is another indication that China may be softening its maybe approach to crypto, which I think people are taking very bullishly. That was kind of blamed for the rip. People were like, "Oh, well, that happened, so we're going higher." In fact, as that came out, like we did go a decent amount higher. And there was some comments about the fact that Trump. We'd all been looking for the Treasury Secretary. It looks like Trump might actually appoint a crypto czar. It sounds like, whatever that means. But yeah, that caused some bullishness.
Very curious who that would be. I think there'll be a lot of eyes on that. I think some prediction markets already getting spun up. Maybe I wouldn't mind talking about this China thing for a minute. I guess what I don't have a read on, and Mendo, I'd love your take if you're closer to it. So it seems like, China's been kind of flip-flopping. How big of a deal is this? Like, have Chinese citizens who are bullish on crypto kind of found their own workarounds, or do you think this is actually a huge unlock?
It caused a bounce, particularly for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is massive in China, right? Like the vast majority of the miners historically have been there, and a vast lot of the Bitcoin wealth is actually in China. We always hear about Sailor and all that sort of stuff, but I would reckon that the majority of it is now in China, Bitcoin wealth, just because that's where the majority of the mining has come from, and there was some capital flows at the start, and you have some of the bigger exchanges linked to it, and yeah, it feels as though China's got a lot of Bitcoin. So when that becomes a legal tender, it creates some bullishness, I think, or at least it's starting to be accepted. Even people who are local there have said, like, I don't think this is like, we're not going to get a situation where Bitcoin becomes completely legal. That's just not the way that China works. It'll take a while for that to happen, but you might see like a gradual, let's say, etching away at the current restrictions on it.
Sure. And it's one of those things it's a signal too, right? That perhaps it's coming. It's a little bit easier to start rationalizing, potentially buying and getting ready for that. And then just a matter of time until they find our rune specs, our pups.
Yeah, we need to onboard them for sure. But yeah.
We're in onboarding season. That's what we're doing.
Onboarding season. Exactly.
So what's going to happen at 100K? Are we just going to are we going to like hit it and bounce off of it? So like one of your predictions, even before the election, was you thought we'd get to 100K before end of year. We're a 2% way, 2.5% move away from it. Is that going to be a tough barrier to break through? Kind of how are you thinking about like the super near term here?
I asked Ovi that this morning, like, what do you think happens when we hit 100K? And he was like, I think it's a buy the news event. As in, I think if you see that and you're not involved in Bitcoin, that will suddenly be like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think people are day to day looking at the price of Bitcoin. But when Bitcoin hits 100K, having like most people, I'm not even too sure if they're aware that like Bitcoin's having a bit of a move here, but they will understand that 100K is money. I think that creates headlines around the world which probably continue for a long time. A lot of people start paying attention. And this is coinciding with obviously like a bit more retail attention. We're starting to see MoonPay have really big figures. Moonshot's obviously onboarding a bunch of people too. It feels as though, we're at a good point here for crypto, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wrote about the 100K number a bit in the newsletter this morning, and I agree. I think when 100K is the number where folks are gonna be like, "Oh shit, like I need to buy this." I think it feels safer at that number. I think the Lindy effect is very real, and that like the higher it goes, it's just showing that it's a safer asset. And I think FOMO will really start to kick in at 100K. So like I know back in 2020, when I still had my full-time day job, I was loosely following crypto. Like to your point, like I wouldn't check prices every day. I'd check maybe once a week. And then in November and December of 2020, I started checking it more frequently, and Bitcoin was literally going up $1,000 a day. And that's when I realized like, shit, I better like hurry up and buy this before it's too late. And I feel like 100K is going to be like that. It's like, what happens if it's 100 and then it's 104 and then it's 100?
Yeah, that's my view. Basically, is that I think it becomes that. It just becomes a thing that people pay attention to, and that becomes a game changer suddenly for adoption.
I think the other big story here I want to touch on is that the breaking news from Eleanor. So we saw Joe McCann yesterday share that Bitwise had registered its SOL ETF in Delaware. And now Eleanor has got a scoop here for Fox and saying that it looks like the spot ETFs are progressing. Now, SEC now engaging with their S1 applications. Doesn't mean that it's coming immediately, but it looks like it's in motion. And so perhaps we actually could get it January, February, like Q1 2025. I'm curious, what do you think that means for ETH ETFs or the ETH trade? Is ETH hurt in that scenario? Are the ETFs bullish for Solana? Is it going to be sell the news like it was for the other two majors? Have you started thinking about that, Mando?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get crazy inflows into a Solana ETF. That's just my gut. Because I think the ETF is more for investment managers, and if they haven't been sold on ETH, I don't really know why they're suddenly going to get sold on Solana. It's not really, the ETF feels for like non-users of the chain, right? And it's more about a story there about what you can sell them. And I think you can sell them on digital gold, this whole like digital oil or smart contracts, like they haven't really cottoned onto it really. So I don't think these are going to be some great event for Solana. But what I do think is that it was something that was being held over Solana by ETH maxis, right? Like, oh, you'll never get an ETF, you'll never be accepted. And even though it won't be like, I don't think it can be adopted probably crazily next year. If they do have that now set up, then I think there's a decent chance that that narrative dies away in like the years to come. So it's good for them long term. I'm not sure if it'll be like some big liquidity unlock, is basically what I'm saying.
I tend to agree. I think it might be bearish ETH a bit.
I think it's bearish ETH, yeah.
Just because, like you mentioned, one of the only narratives out there right now is that there's two ETFs, Bitcoin and ETH, and folks are going to start diversifying. I've shared that narrative as well myself. When there's more, now that narrative kind of falls apart a little bit. And actually, I think the more options there are, and it seems like we're going to have several in the next couple of years, does it actually make the Bitcoin one stronger even, perhaps? So we'll certainly see. But to give ETH maxis, to throw them a bone, they do have Kobe trying to help. So we got a Kobe candle perhaps this morning or from last night as well. He's been doing his share of bull posting. On the Bitcoin side, he said Bitcoin flipping gold is nothing but the restoration of sanity to our reality. And the question is, how many multiples is the fair valuation? So that was a fun one. And then it must have been in a reply, but he also was bull posting ETH and basically saying that he thought it would double along with Bitcoin in the next year. Let me see if I can try to find it real quick. Yeah, here we are. It seems likely that ETH below 4K, temporary dislocation in our reality. Most would have a better time just thinking about both going up. No, I can't find the tweet. But anyways, he thinks ETH is going to double in the next year along with Bitcoin. So a little bit of hopium here for the ETH maxis. Logie, tag you into the conversation. Any macro thoughts here this morning on any of the news around Bitcoin, Solana ETFs? Kind of how are you feeling? Any perspective?
Yeah, not too much different to add to what you guys have been talking about. Regarding the ETF, though, it's interesting to me just being close to people who have purchased the ETH and the Bitcoin ETFs as a way to get exposure to crypto. To me, that still seems like a bullish thing. I know you're talking about pairs there with, Solana ETF potentially being bearish for ETH or, being bearish for whatever. But when I think about a way for people to gain access to this that perhaps don't have a ton of disposable income coming in, but have like 401ks that could potentially gain them access to crypto, that seems and feels bullish to me. For example, I've used the anecdote of my own father, right, who is not purchasing on Coinbase with money he's pulling from a checking account. He's taking what he has in a 401k that he can't touch or can only use so much of, and he's rolling it in and gaining crypto exposure that way. So I'm all for it. I think bullish long term, of course.
Feeling bullish this morning, indeed. I think another metric that perhaps is bullish, but maybe more so for the meme coin market is Moonshot. Moonshot printing back-to-back all-time high days in fees. So the day closing on Wednesday morning, they logged about 215,000 in fees, about double their previous high, and they went another 100,000 higher. 50% jump, 311K in fees registered here, according to data from DeFi Llama. Logan, I know you were looking into this. What's happening with Moonshot? Is the onboarding event that we were expecting, is it actually happening?
I think it is. I wrote a story for Decrypt last week about crypto apps surging, Moonshot being one of those. It had kind of crept into the top 100, talking about iOS apps, that is, the free finance apps. I just refreshed actually a few minutes ago. I think it was up inside the top 30. And it's jumped about 500 spots since the election, or close to 500 spots since the election. That's just 2 weeks, right? And it's now, of course, becoming much more on people's radar. The fee stuff is interesting as well. I mean, this just points to the usage on the platform, basically. People are actually buying memes here. If it wasn't, painfully obvious to you in the streets at this point in time, it still pales in comparison to, of course, what Pump Fun is making. Sure. But I think it's a really good indicator of, if you want to call it retail, if you want to call it meme coin activity, it's a handful of all of those things. This is good to see that number going up, and it's something we should continue to pay attention to, in my opinion.
Were you able to track down any other Moonshot data? I feel like they keep a lot of their user data kind of behind closed doors. So this fee number is really all that we've been able to use to get a sense of their growth.
Yeah, I don't have a user number. As far as downloads go, they were around 100,000 cross between Android and iOS via Sensor Tower, which is where I'm using. Where I'm tracking the app ranking. That was when I wrote the article last week. I've not refreshed that number, but that would be a decent indicator probably of the amount of users. And then I don't have information regarding the fiat on-ramps, but as the team has reported, they've had record-breaking days in the last few weeks with regards to how much fiat is being deposited on the app.
Yeah, the fiat number would be interesting. The user numbers are as well. I'd be curious if you have a chance to refresh that. I have to imagine if it was at 100,000 downloads last week, that number is up quite a bit. And perhaps that's being driven in part by some of the TikTok meta, the Chill Guy onboarding. We'll get to Chill Guy here. Maybe let's just dive right into it. What jumped out to me when I woke up this morning, I'd slept through all the Chill Guy FUD. I pulled up the Solana board and saw that it had done over $700 million in on-chain volume. It's actually down a touch at 10% on the day. If you look at the price action, it was just a roller coaster all night. So it touched 450, touched 500, went all the way down to 250, back up, down to 200. It looks like a wick, back up to 450, 480, back down to 300, now around 360 or so. So it's been some very volatile price action, to say the least, on an asset that's already a third of a way to $1 billion. It is seemingly on the back of some FUD driven up from the artist who is behind the Just a Chill Guy meme. So that the artist is Philip Banks. He apparently put a post out overnight saying that Chill Guy has been copyrighted legally. He's going to be issuing takedowns on for-profit related things over the next few days. Basically pointing towards the shitcoin. He's since locked his account. A lot has happened since. I think some of either the CTO team or just community members set up a donation wallet. I think that they sent him some of the Chill Guy tokens. They sent him some Solana as well. Perhaps an Xbox is in the mix. Logan, I'm not sure if you dove into this one. Did I capture what happened? What else? Like, what's going on with this situation?
I think that's about it. And I believe there was some previous commentary from him, maybe in the days before as well. But I think what's captured on screen here gives a pretty good gist. He has since locked his account, as indicated in this tweet. So it's tougher to find some of those retroactive tweets if you weren't already following. Interesting event. We've seen this sort of artist discourse, displeasure with the degenerate behavior of the cryptocurrency market transpire 100 million times. So that's not necessarily out of the ordinary. I think what's out of the ordinary here is the ferocity with which this market has soaked up Chill Guy, and then what happens next. And how far Philip takes this, or if he just kind of drops it. You mentioned the donation wallet. When I had refreshed this morning, it was up over $235,000 that have been donated. Yeah. He has not responded or accepted that wallet. I imagine somebody created the wallet for him. So, there's some potential issues there with somebody, I guess, who knows who has the private keys to that. But interesting. I mean, this is still all over my timeline. It's still the top. And disclosure, I own Chill Guy as well. I capitulated near the top, but all over the timeline. It's going to be in the headlines for a while.
I mean, not only is it all over the timeline, it seemed like the FUD helped drive holder growth as well. So we're up to 113,000 holders on Chill Guy now. I think it was 70,000 when we did the show yesterday. So it's up another 40,000 since then.
Something like that, yeah.
It was when I went to bed last night, it was like 95,000. So it picked up another 15 to 18,000 overnight. Mando, I'm curious for your perspective on the FUD here. I think you were in the Pepe trade. I believe Pepe faced a fairly similar situation with Matt Fury that caused some FUD early on. Curious for your thoughts, how this relates to that, or just general perspective here.
As far as I remember, there was none from Matt Fury. He did DMCA other things.
Okay.
Matt Fury, there was questions why he didn't get paid. And they'd spoken to him, but he did a DMCA.
Okay.
Nothing was ever, and I don't believe he ever outright threatened anything like that. He just said he didn't want to get in the way of people and their money. That's what I remember at some stage. And then in the end, I remember Paulie, I think, sent him a ton of tokens. So he actually sold the absolute bottom of Pepe. When the team started selling, he sold it at the absolute lows. I don't think that he could have sold it at less of a low than the level he sold it. And then it giga pumped after that. So it's kind of in the lore of Pepe because he got out at a very low level after he was sent tokens. But there was some frustration, we should make sure the artist gets paid and all this sort of stuff. Pepe was a much more established meme than Chill Guy, right? Mm-hmm. There'd been several different attempts to co-opt the meme. Obviously, around the election, there was all that stuff, and he did come into DMC to DMCA some of that stuff. But that was before the Pepe meme coin was created. This is a slightly different scenario. I don't really know where I stand on it because this does happen a lot in crypto. Right, there's very little respect for anyone else's creation, right? We'll make a meme out of literally anything, particularly in the pump fun era. And I kind of know this with some of the with a lot of the coins that I'm involved in. There's this is always a complication one of the new complications is there going to be a similar coin on ETH or SUI or one of these other chains, and the other one is do we have any sort of ownership rights over the meme, right? And both of those can be quite complicated at times. I know like various different like you have to either get licensing or this sort of stuff. It seems as though this guy it does not like crypto at all. Very much. He's not a big fan of crypto, although they've got a donation address. 250K for a whatever. How big's the meme coin now?
300 million.
Oh, meme coin. I just don't even know. I don't know. I don't think he'll win a court case over it necessarily. That's my guess. But or at least it will be a long time, and it will most probably end in a settlement anyway, of which they've kind of already created the wallet for that. So yeah, I feel like I do feel like it's a complicated scenario. Of what is clear is that like this is not some cabal CTO. Like it's not like they're sitting there with like 50% of the supply. This is a real CTO. It's similar to like WIF, for example, where it's less controlled, which it's probably good for crypto because it shows it's very organic. But it's not like there's some centralized team that's made an absolute ton off this. And so I think that's why it's been a little bit more difficult to do various different things. So the idea that they'll be able to send him $2 million worth of token, like, no, I don't think it's like that. So that might make it a bit more complicated. I don't know. But they have a public wallet. I think they've got like 250 grand, maybe slightly more. Yeah, let's see where it ends up. I'm bullish on this though. I do think that it's very difficult for something with this amount of holders to die. Let's put it that way.
My read when I woke up this morning, kind of processed the information, was that it was bullish FUD, and that this is something you get past. I was happy to see the holder growth through the night. I was happy, of course, when I woke up, it was also over 400 million, which helped. Yeah. You think it was a bullish event. If it drops back to 200, maybe I'm a little less confident in that. But it feels like one of those things that you kind of, perhaps that might help cement the legacy, and one of the hurdles that you just kind of have to go through. So I don't know, I'm feeling optimistic, but certainly a little bit more of a complicated situation. Also, I mean, the coin, like, I think folks who are perhaps worried about price action, and rightfully so. If you're stressed about it too much, losing sleep, sell some, make yourself feel comfortable. I think Froke shared that advice. I wanted to echo it. This thing also ran up from 25 million to 400 million in a day. It was buyable below 10 million just a few days ago. So seeing some red on the board, not a huge surprise. Just in a situation where there wasn't even FUD. So I think also not surprised from that angle. But for folks who are trading more than just CHILLGUY, I think they woke up feeling pretty happy, especially those who have been dabbling in the AI sector. It looks like a pretty full recovery across the board. The AI sector had been basically slaughtered, as CHILLGUY was a liquidity suck, and then the AI 16Z drama that had played out a few days ago, I think it made people kind of question whether these on-chain agent valuations were perhaps too high. Well, I think they threw those questions out the window. We saw massive rebounds. Zero Bro leading the charge, back over $500 million market cap, up 70% on the day. Fartcoin holding up nicely. I think it was back at 370 this morning, touching all-time highs, but still holding at 333. It had dipped to 200, so up nearly 100% off that local bottom. AI 16Z marching back up. It's up 34%. Waifu back at 70. Shoggoth was a big winner. Well, let's see what else. And then on the lower end of the board, we saw some new runners as well, with Opium, I don't know how to pronounce that, Lola, Roperito. A few interesting new stories here. Logie, I asked you to dive into the AI board. Any high-level takeaways before we dive into some of these? What are your thoughts here? Is AI back?
It's back. I'm not sure it really ever left. It was like a that 1 to 2 day lull, of course, dominated by CHILLGUY. But this resurgence, I mean, cementing in some way that this is more than just a 1 month meta, if you'd like to call it that, or if you were previously calling it that. The Zero Bro stuff has been unbelievable. Disclosure, it's one of my bigger meme coin holdings at this point in time. But the strength that it showcased, even amid the CHILLGUY stuff from yesterday, was quite remarkable. And Jeffy, who's the dev here working with Zero Bro, continues to push stuff out. You have the Zero Born NFTs. You have the Web 4 thing that he's been pushing. They released like a musical, I'm not sure, album or single or whatever. Like, there's been just a lot of innovation. I know Mando's talked about that on this show, about having, a developer who's willing to kind of innovate and push these things forward. And I think you're really seeing that with Zero Bro. And, and that's one of the reasons it's standing out. It's harder to stand out now than it was previously, where there were only 1 or 2 agents on chain interacting. And that's where I think that's standing out just a little bit. But disclosure, of course, some bag bias there. I don't know too much about this one, Tyler. This one I'll hand to you. But as for the rest of the board, I mean, the Fartcoin's strength is, that's obvious at this point in time. And then all the way downstream, as you noted, I mean, there's strength in a lot of these that have just found, I'm not sure what the right way to characterize it is, but just, found some footing again when things have just chilled on CHILLGUY, pun intended there.
Yeah, there's a few interesting stories. So one, I mean, the headline is just the broad recovery. I think Zero Bro cementing itself as a clear leader in the sector. It feels like one of the safer plays. I think safer in quotes. I've got a small bag. My bag is much smaller than it would have been had I not sold. One of my worst trades here of the last few months. But we saw a few interesting news stories pop up. So Vader is a virtuals based AI agent. They had a big announcement yesterday. They said basically they're trying to be the BlackRock of AI agents, forming a network of specialized AI agent traders. They have their own niches where they trade, a DAO to manage all this, then perhaps a rewards program. What I thought was perhaps the most interesting part of their announcement was they also wormholed to Solana. I'm in a lot of chats with folks who are trading a lot of the AI memes. A lot of them just don't want to go to base. Like they want exposure to this, but they just aren't interested in bridging off Solana with where all the action is. So now we've seen one of our first major players from the Virtuals protocol bridge over. And I mean, the market liked it. Of course, they had their own update, so it's hard to say how much of this is tied to the update versus the bridge to Solana, but up 47%. I'm curious if we'll see others do that. Logie, were you following the Vader stuff or just broader Virtuals protocol? No, you were pretty early to Virtuals.
Yeah. Just a little bit. It was really early to the Vader stuff. That was right when they announced virtuals.fun, right? That was one of the first, if not the first, agent created on that. I think that the Solana versus base thing is really interesting. I actually saw a take, and I'm not going to be able to find the tweet now, yesterday, about how some people expect that agents might run into issues on Solana. I don't know if I shared that with you, Tyler, or maybe you shared that with me. I'm not sure if it's architecture related or what have you, related to using the blockchain, base being a strength versus Solana. I don't know the argument there, but it was just something I saw that was interesting to me when you're comparing or thinking about where these agents should play. But in terms of getting liquidity to your coin, in terms of getting interest and eyeballs to your coin, it's obvious it has to be on Solana right now versus base, in my opinion. So I think this was smart to open up a wormhole and give people an opportunity to participate that weren't otherwise participating or had some sort of standing that they didn't want to cross in moving over to base. Related to the base thing, though, I don't know if you're going to talk about Anon, the coin that Vitalik bought.
Oh, we can go there. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Farcaster related AI coin. Basically, you own some of the coin and you can make anonymous posts on Farcaster using ZK proof technology. And Arkham Intel, I think, flagged a purchase from Vitalik yesterday, and it went up like 350%. You had shared this on your timeline, maybe actually a day before, Tyler, or 2 days before. A highlight from Darren, friend of the show. People like to go where smart money's going. Vitalik, obviously, a very, very smart person. So interesting innovations. Again, just people kind of pushing things, trying to do different things. And those are the coins that oftentimes, especially if you're just meddling around in the muck and the trenches, you can find those and find pretty swift moves upwards, like we saw with this one.
Yeah, gotta shout out Darren. I see he's listening. I've got noties on for him. I think he's one of the stronger signals in the space. He shared his thoughts on Anon just a day or two before Vitalik bought. So I was lucky enough to get in. And then it's interesting. Vitalik only bought enough he basically bought the min amount so that he could use the protocol and test it out. It was only 0.08 ETH. So it's not like he slammed in 100 ETH or something into this. But it was enough for the market. As soon as the market saw it, it just went absolutely crazy. And now up from a local bottom below 10 million, now at 45 million. So, quite the run. And it's interesting. I think folks, there is a cohort of this market who is focused on base right now and thinks there's going to be a base season. Coinbase clearly is kind of opening up what they're listing, and folks think that perhaps they'll be more looking at some of their own ecosystem tokens. It's got the Farcaster tie-in. It's got a good ticker. Vitalik's a buyer. It's an interesting narrative for sure. Now, I mean, is it a good buy at 45? We'll certainly see how it ages. But
yeah, none of the base ones have really broken out of this range, to my knowledge. You have Zerobro and Go and other, lots of, lots of the Solana coins, which have, of course, exceeded 100 million, et cetera. As far as AI related coins on base, you have Virtuals, the protocol coin. Luna had a run up above 200 million, I believe, right? But like beyond that, I've been tracking Luminous. You see there, that was an agent to agent interaction coin. Anon. I mean, there's a couple others probably floating around, of course, and all those other agents on Virtuals. Stuck sort of mired in this like 30 to 50 to 70 million dollar range. We haven't seen anything. It would not shock me to see one, of course, run to 200, 300, 400, $500 million market cap. We just haven't seen it yet. Whereas that's transpired on Solana.
It's interesting. Just quickly on base, since we're talking about it. I mean, Brett has been one of the more quiet winners. It's like as all the memes have leveled up, Brett's at 1.6. Like,
no one owns it, dude.
Yeah. Whoever does own it, like they're feeling all right, but it marches up. Degen had a nice run. Degen was over 400. Miggles, the cat mascot, has had quite the run as well. So there's some action on base. On your comment on Virtuals specifically, I think it is a little bit underwhelming. So Luna was the number one. So Luna soared to like 250, I think, at peak, steadily down. Now it's already been flipped by AI XBT. Which I thought was notable. You kind of always think the OG is going to keep that spot. We don't really see that happen too much. I haven't dug into this. It feels like kind of throwing darts right now. I'll be curious how this ecosystem continues to grow. I think another interesting kind of going back to AI. So we had TikTok meta, and then yesterday we got one of the first intersections of AI and TikTok. So this dev Roperito had launched a Roperito token, and he has made it the first autonomous TikTok AI agent. So an AI agent writing its own code to create TikTok shorts, and he shared the shorts. They actually were created. I checked a few of them out last night. I don't know that they were like groundbreaking in quality, but I think they were the first to actually have executed this. So we'll see if being first actually does matter. I think we saw the Roperito token jump about 100%, 150% on the back of this. It was hanging out around 12 million here before the show. Amanda, maybe I'll toss it back to you just for just a broader take. We saw the big pullback in AI memes. It seems like at least we've got a rebound on the board, whether that's a dead cat bounce or just a kind of a return to attention on this. How are you feeling about the broad sector? I know we've talked about GOAT on the show. Do you think this one was just a short-term blip?
I think I think AI memes are going to do a 10x, dude. Like, I really do. I said it a week ago. I said it's very rare that you see a bull, like an actual meta like this. It reminds me, do you remember of like the gaming meta of 2021 where it actually went to like 50 billion?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the timing of that. I'm not saying the same, but like when a meta like that happens, because that was at the same time as, metaverse, all that sort of stuff was happening. Facebook changed their name. Everything was going wild. And these gaming tokens went crazy, right? And then, yes, during the bear, they all dropped 90%. What I'm telling you right now is that the timing of this, I'm not saying that this will drop 90%, but I'm saying that this right now, whether you believe in it or not, or you think it's a bit of a lob, it's just right time, right place. AI is like the #1 bullish thing in the stock market. Where at that time it was some of the metaverse stuff, or at least that's what they were trying to push, let's say. And this stuff is, it's new, it's novel. I honestly think GOAT could go to 5 to 10 billion here. I think Zero Bro could probably go to low billions. I think, I don't know about AI16Z because it's kind of burnt itself a little bit, but I think, Fartcoin, as ridiculous as it is, could go above $1 billion pretty comfortably. Like, I genuinely think that. I think people are looking at that as a sector, the AI agent sector. If you listen to the Nvidia call yesterday, this is all they were talking about, like the use of AI agents and for their chip. Like, it's just right time, right place. And I think buy all dips. Like, if there's a dip, do not fade it. That is a chance to buy it, not to sell it. Maybe when Bitcoin's at 150K, that's when you go, or 130K, that's when you go, okay, it's getting a bit frothy. But I particularly, like, for me, the obvious one is GOAT, because it's very difficult for it to be diluted, in my opinion. Like, with these memes, there's, there is often we can be super bullish on Chill Guy today, but I'm not saying there can't be another TikTok meme next week. Right. I think some of these are still, they're very difficult to dilute with the rest of the meme coins. So, like, people are viewing them as meme coins, and this is what I was saying a while back. Like, I don't think you should view them as meme coins. I think you should view them as their own sector, AI agents / AI money. Let's put it that way. And in that realm, in that universe, they don't get diluted when a new cute cat comes out, right? Or when Peanut comes out, or when like this, that doesn't happen. So I think you can also feel pretty comfortable that it's then they're less cycly than some of the other meme coins out there. And I also think they also have that, like, enough. I mean, I like what Kook said about them the other day, which is like, they're just enough of a LARP, right? Like, the people who are in them also get that, like, they're not like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'm not Thread Guy, where I'm like, this is all, like, I get that this is a bit of a LARP, right? And this is a bit new, but I'm just telling you, this is the right time, right place for that LARP. And I think they can all do a 10x.
It's good advice. It's an interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing that. I think one of the mistakes I made was perhaps middle curving Zero Bro. So I had a nice bag, and then I was sitting and looking at his tweets, and I was like, these are good, but what's the mode? And like kind of like the whole LARPing thing is like, is this enough? And clearly the market thought it was enough, and I was wrong there. And what I like about this sector is it's you can kind of use your own logic, your own mind, and evaluate these things. It's not just like, is this a funny meme? Does this make me laugh or not? Like, we're past that a little bit, right? You can evaluate the quality of the outputs yourself and think, like, are people actually going to like and respond to this? And the signal on Zero Bro was like, a lot of people in CT were just like loving the content pretty early on.
And if you don't love that, then I would buy GOAT, because GOAT is just an art piece. A lot of the other ones are adding, like, the utility side of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're trying to be an AI agent launcher. They're trying to do tons of different things. Whereas GOAT he's literally saying this is a performance art piece, right? He's not saying that I'm going to add, like, AGI to this, and I'm not going to make, like, I'm not going to do crazy. He is saying he'll upgrade the model, but he's not trying to make this into more than just like that performance piece, let's say.
Yeah, I almost think the more you try to build, the more risks that you add to a lot of these.
That's what
how I felt about Ava. It's because Ava's kind of rolling out some of its initial plans, and they're starting to show more, and they're great. But like the more that you showcase a product, I feel like you introduce people trying to evaluate it like a product and what that product is worth. I think that's my concern.
And that stuff might also go higher, like Virtuals protocol.
Sure.
But like there's a lot of people doing the same thing. Right now, Virtuals is very similar to AI16Z, which is very, well, some of the stuff that AI16Z is doing, which is very similar to the stuff that Zero Bro is thinking about doing, which is very similar to some of the other stuff that like Vivi Vafu was talking about. Like that sort of stuff can be a little bit like a race between them all to who has the best AI, of which I think there are some winners, of which you mentioned, Logan, like you want to pick the ones that have like clearly devs who are shipping stuff every day and like are so act for this to go well, which is like Zero Row has, you know, it really does have. Yeah, I just don't think you can fade it, even if you think it's a lot.
Well, Logan, I know you've been tracking it closely. Like, how are you thinking about trading it? So, like Mando mentioned some of the top plays at the top of the board, but I think for a lot of the folks who are grinding, you know, the trenches, it's not quite as interesting to play the majors, and they're looking at new stuff. So, are you tracking new launches? Like, what are you focused on?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to track new launches. And in doing so, much like I described, I'm trying to find stuff with people who are invested in the success of it, not necessarily financially, right? Like shilling the ticker, those types of things, because that's probably a turnoff. But people who are invested in creating something novel or interesting. And it's becoming more difficult because there are more people doing this. But for example, Roperito, right, as you shared here, a first autonomous TikTok agent. I'm not sure if that claim is accurate or not, but something like that is interesting and unique. And it's something that I would want to pay attention to and be able to follow. And it differentiates itself from a lot of the other agents. There's not just that. There's a handful of others. I don't want to shield tickers, but just because some things are so small and not even on that watch list. But if you just kind of go down the...
People just want tickets, man. People just want them.
We want the tickets.
They want them, man. You've got who was the other day? Like you had Gordon shilling like 10K market cap meme coins.
The band-aids have all been ripped off.
Yeah, the band-aids off.
Well, anyway, I mean, you know, there's some one that we saw that was shared with us by a friend who's close to AI, Tyler, about like a conspiracy theory type thing, right? Where they're trying to open source things like that. There's a lot of like just interesting / weird / just experience. I mean, just go look at them and experiment with them. Oftentimes, I know it's kind of a joke, the LARPy thing, but oftentimes you can pretty quickly tell like how stupid or how, you know, you can compare it to the others that are active and out there pretty quickly and understand whether or not it requires any additional due diligence.
I think there's a lot of opportunities in the under $5 to $10 million space. If you can find them and do some evaluation yourself, surround yourself in groups of people who are doing similar. So a friend, Rogmax, actually shared this Lola token with me a few days ago. This is one of the biggest winners. On the day, it's up 275% at 18 million. This is an autonomous AI agent that trades shitcoins, but also has like a sarcastic personality. So they post on X. I think I shared one of her posts this morning. I said her. I struggle with that. Do you call these things it, or do you call them by pronouns? Look, I need your thoughts here.
Unless they've specified, I think I've been using it. Though I'm not familiar. She says girl in her profile, and maybe they've specified. So
yeah, I need to work on that. But
do your best.
Autonomous AI agent that also has like the Zero Bro like type of Twitter personality that shit posts along with it. It's fun, right? And it's enough to get it up to 18 million. We'll see where it goes from here. It probably needs continuous good content along with some good trades. But these are the types of things that you can spot in the $2 to $3 million range and get some nice multiples here. And I think there's going to be a lot more. So like Mando mentioned, this is a sector to focus on. It is its own sector. I think you could just focus just in this and do just fine. Like one of the mistakes I made is after Chill Guy, I spent all of yesterday playing these stupid TikTok memes and lost on 10 out of 10 of them. Like everyone lost who traded these yesterday. I don't think anyone won except perhaps the devs who were launching these. So just be careful and maybe focus in the winning sectors are my thoughts. A few minutes left in the show. Logie, what else is happening? We've got a fairly big NFT mint here happening today. This one kind of snuck up on me, but Xcopy is doing an art blocks mint. What do people need to know about this?
Yeah, so you see there 438 works remaining. There's basically 450 available. I believe the vast majority of those available to allow listed parties. If you don't know if you're on the allow list, there's like a thread via Artblocks that has a Google Doc list with that. Just another Xcopy via Artblocks engine, but another edition mint icons. ICXNS. These don't mean much to me looking at them. This is not my favorite Xcopy that I've seen, but Xcopy, as far as, if people feeling wealthy on chain, talked about status, talked about CryptoPunk price movement upwards, people feeling wealthy on chain, Xcopy is one of those names, right? Where you can feel wealthy and flex a little bit. So it would not surprise me to see this do well. But
give us a price prediction. Give us your price prediction. There's 500 of these.
500.
We're minting for 0.01. It's basically a free mint.
Couple ETH maybe. Is that high? There's nothing about. I don't know. I think I'm using the fact that I just don't like the look of these. Perhaps holding that down a little bit. I'd much rather have almost any other Xcopy. Personally, like a grifter or something like that, rather than chucking a couple ETH or something like this.
I think the problem with this one is if this was any other artist by Xcopy, this would be a floor art blocks collection. It would be like 0.01 ETH. It's probably a fair price. But it's X, so it probably will be in the 1 to 2 ETH range. We'll certainly see. We'll be following that market action today for sure. And then one other exciting item. Well, the Joe Piece had a big day yesterday. I'm sure folks in the art crowd are talking about this when he sold a 30-piece edition for about $1.1 million. But our very own Ovi, big day tomorrow, perhaps the biggest day. Reccoin. Reccoin is coming at a not the best time for those of us who are in Central. So it's 10 a.m. UTC. That is 5 a.m. Eastern, folks, tomorrow morning. 4 a.m. for me. So I'll be getting in bed early tonight. It is time to get wrecked. He did share some of the initial tokenomics behind this. 63% for the community, a very nice chunk there. 11% for the eco, 15% contributors, 7.5% for brands, 3% for advisors. It is going to be a big day. It looks like the Drake Points owners are getting 24% of the tokens. Rec Guy holders are getting a chunk as well. Mando, rate the excitement levels from your good pal Ovi here headed into tomorrow.
I think head's been down to get this. I mean, this has come as a surprise to anyone. I don't even know what to say. I think it's been hinted at very, very regularly for a long time now. There was a points program. You can't just get in now. They've been going on for months regarding rec drinks and rec guys themselves. But yeah, the coin will be out tomorrow. Enjoy, DGens. Goes.
Enjoy indeed. So tomorrow's show is going to be an absolute banger because this thing is going to be live.
Well, we got Rec Guy versus Chill Guy.
Yes, hopefully a battle to billions.
ETH rips. Let's see what happens.
Oh, I think you guys have been alluding to it, but not a bad time for a new coin to drop on ETH, right? I feel like there's been much new action over there.
I couldn't believe it when the timing happened. I was like, oh my God, ETH has been dead for so long. Hopefully this cooks.
Good backdrop for sure. Well, I think we went around the horn there. Logie, anything I missed on your list?
No, nothing on mine.
Nice. Well, I think we can go ahead and call it, folks. Fun show. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. Thanks to my co-host. Thanks to our partner, Galaxis. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. As always, till then, go make today a beautiful day. Goodbye.